everyone, my name is Nhật Anh and I am glad to start our presentation with Monopoly topic. Our team have chosen Saigon Jewelry Company, SJC, as a special case of monopolist. Most monopolists, including SJC, share four major characteristics. Firstly, in 2012, Vietnamese State Bank has granted SJC the exclusive right to process and sell gold bar, while they hold the monopolist control in the production and its raw material trading. This regulation has created a high barrier of entry for the gold bullion market, making the state-owned enterprise the sole gold bar domestic suppliers, hence allowing the monopolist to control the market price by setting the quantity produced. Additionally, gold bar is a high liquid asset in investment instruments. Despite the price setter's preference in selling large quantities at high price, they could only sell along the demand curve. Otherwise, consumer will not buy it. Therefore, the company would need to determine the optimal quantity at which their profit is maximized. The profit would not be at the highest TR, since it is also impacted by TC, but rather be where the difference between TR and TC is largest. Additionally, anticipating the whole TR and TC would be more difficult than analyzing the additional cost and revenue for each unit increase in output, as they can be easily extracted from the company's past experience. At the optimal quantity, we can see that the slope of TR and TC, which are MR and MC, are equal. This can also be found by setting the slope of profit function equal to 0 at optimal point. Conclusively, the monopolist's optimal quantity is where the additional revenue covers the additional cost. Optimal price can be found by plugging its output back to the demand equation. Additionally, Vietnamese gold was recently reported to cost $500 much more than the world price, which was mainly due to the scarcity of gold bars. The State Bank's action in stopping importing raw materials for gold bar productions for 10 years could imply the intention in remaining the output at this rate, which could be their optimal output. Comparing to the pre-monopolization, despite holding over 90% of market share, SJC was not able to heavily impact the market price, possibly due to the existence of other potential competitors. Finally, monopolists are well known for allocative inefficiency, which appears when resources are not optimally allocated from society's viewpoint. Assuming the socially efficient quantity is achieved at a world price, where price equal to MC. As the demand still exceeds the supply, gold bar price was better, despite society's preference to have the output at this rate, resulting in a deadweight loss. Conclusively, the monopolist is allocative inefficient, since it charged a high price for less output. Additionally, the non-competitive market protected by high barriers to entry could leave the monopolist lack of innovation.
Thanks Nhật Anh, I am Thuận presenting part 2. The Vietnamese metal mining industry is an oligopoly market, as there are a small number of firms that account for major market share. Moreover, metal mining companies are highly interdependent. For example, because the current oversupply in Vietnam construction steel require a steel producer with efficient cost management to capture more market share, Hòa Phát becomes the first steelmaker to acquire the iron ore Australia, decreasing the high cost of iron ore materials. Another example is Masan Group decided to become the leading manufacturer of midstream tungsten by acquiring the HT Stock tungsten business, allowing Masan to access to advanced technology and new market. High barrier to entry. The metal mining industry requires new company a large capital outlay, as electricity, infrastructure, and labor costs extremely high. Furthermore, entrants should take environmental compliance seriously. Otherwise, they may be cost violated, like the investor of Núi Pháo project. The Núi Pháo project at that time had not installed a local wastewater treatment system before discharging to ore setting lakes, and could not ensure that wastewater does not penetrate into the soil and underground water environment. Quantity competition possibly occurs in the metal mining industry. Firstly, there is a low level of product differentiation, as mining products are required to meet accepted quality criteria. For example, mangan ore must possess exactly 48% of mangan to enter the metallurgical process at the industry standard. Deltamine meets the standard of beer, wine, and beverage industry, and Tox meets the standard of cosmetic and hospital industry. Another reason to prove the quantity competition exists is that many capacity expansion projects from 2021 to 2050 are calling for increasing capital investment. Some mining products are significantly attractive, include bauxite, titan, iron ore, and precious metals.
Hi, my name is Dong. Coordinate competition is chosen because the company compete on output basis. The theoretical result of coordinate model stated equilibrium. If firm profit maximizing output is best response to the rival output. From the graph, if firm produce less than the monopoly quantity and the total output is greater than the monopoly level. As the number of firms increases, equilibrium price and quantity approach competitive level, reducing producer surplus. Besides, firms could form a cartel to reap a high profit by colluding. However, the theoretical result is unlikely to reflect real life because of three main limitations. Firstly, a firm output choice will not change based on the information other firm choices, but in fact, the company tend to be extremely receptive to rival strategies. Additionally, companies in real world do not face symmetric MC and compete simultaneously, so the number of goods that should produce to maximize profit will be different. Sizable companies like Masan, High-Tech Material, or Vinacomin may have a lower MC. Lastly, mining products are not homogeneous as lots of variables affect the homogeneity. For example, the quality of coal is affected by five distinct natural factors are given there. Automatic conveyors are the technology that convey goods from one part of the production site to another automatically. This technology helps to improve the transportation capacity and avoid congestion of coal in the pit. For instance, the Vinacomin reduced the labor force by 40% by applying this technology, indicating a decrease in marginal cost. Given that Vinacomin applied technology, Vinacomin MC reduces while MR remain unchanged, and other firm MC and MR remain unchanged. Vinacomin best response function is 6 hours, indicating that Vinacomin produces more at a higher output level while the other firm production level decreases. The new equilibrium is created with G with higher total quantity, making price decreases following the law of supply and demand. Hence, this makes consumer surplus increase and that way loss decrease, indicating a higher market efficiency level. Vinacomin producer surplus as presented formula will increase while reducing in the other firms.
Thanks, Tom. Now let's discuss the US-China trade war. The game settings in the US-China trade war are as follows. There are two players, China and the US. The main strategies used include trade restriction, by which the countries can impose tariffs or ban trades on certain goods of the other one, and trade facilitation, where trade barriers are lifted. The type of game is sequential movement, where America is the first mover, with response from the Chinese government following. It is considered sequential movement because, as illustrated here, the US and China usually act sequentially after the other one completed their action. Considering the payoffs of this game, it can be seen that both China and the US are worse off when the exports and imports between them keep declining for several quarters since the trade war started. On the other hand, the US would gain about 100 billion USD from revenue on tariffs on Chinese goods. Therefore, the worst scenario for the US is that both countries attack each other, and the best case for them is to restrict trade when China still facilitates trade. When China restricts trade, it is better for America to still facilitate trade so that their companies and households do not have to face inflation due to rising prices of Chinese imports. In case America facilitates trade, it is better for them to have China facilitating trade as well. The same argument also applies to China. Having said that, we can construct a payoff matrix as shown here. When China facilitates trade, the US is better off by restricting trade. When China restricts trade, the US is better off by facilitating trade. The net equilibrium of this chicken game is that either China or the US has to facilitate trade when the other one restricts trade. However, there are implicit costs for the US when they levy tariffs on China, as American companies and households incur higher costs. Thereby, unemployment has been rising, and all of these factors have reduced the GDP of the US. In reality, the implicit cost may not be fully captured, as the action initiated by the US is restricting trade. While America could gain $100 billion in tariff revenue, there are rising costs burden on their people. This has made the US-China trade war look more like a prisoner dilemma game, where the net equilibrium of this game is that both countries keep restricting trade on each other, as shown in the previous slide. But since this game is repeated, both countries have used a tit-for-tat strategy, in which they will behave as what their rival has done to them. Indeed, before the lift of the US poultry bans, China received a tariff exemption from the US. Then they entered the Phase 1 trade deal to dampen the tension between the two countries. The trade war will continue if one country does not follow the deal made, thereby counterattacks keep occurring, or it will stop if both of them choose to cooperate for a win-win strategy.